This is a course on English medical terminology. This video is a lesson on the endocrine system. To find out more about this course, how I teach it, and how you should take it, check out this video, which is also linked below. You might also want to make sure that maybe you have your notes with you from the basics lesson, because you're going to find a lot of the roots from that lesson being used in this one. Endo, exo, hyper, hypo, troph. So it might help you to refresh your memory and to keep all of this sort of whole in your mind as you follow along with your existing notes. So grab your pen, stylus, or keyboard, whatever you use to take notes, and after a little guitar music, we'll get started. English medical terminology, the endocrine system. The first root, we'll repeat this from the basics. Endo meaning in or into, and we'll go right to the next root, crine meaning to secrete in or within. And while we're here, let's consider another root, ex and exo, along with the root gen meaning to produce or create. Exogenous hormones are those that are created outside the organism or outside the body, and such hormones would be used therapeutically to treat infertility or growth deficiency. The next root, toxic, meaning poisonous. An example, thyrotoxic. This is levels of thyroid hormone that are so high that they actually become poisonous. The next roots, gluc and glyc, meaning sugar. An example, hypoglycemia, a condition of insufficient sugar in the blood. The next root, calc, easy enough, meaning calcium. An example, hypercalcemia, meaning a condition of excess calcium in the blood. The next root, phys, meaning to grow or to be. An example, hypophysis. This is a gland that grows below the brain. It's another name for the pituitary gland, and it's the same phys as in words like physical, physique, physics, etc. The next root, hom or home, meaning same. An example, homeostasis, staying the same, which is the body's self-regulating mechanisms. For instance, reactions to extreme heat or extreme cold, the body will adjust its temperature. This is in contrast to simply, for instance, adding or removing clothing. Your body itself has self-regulatory mechanisms. The next root, cort, meaning bark, literally the bark of a tree. An example, the adrenal cortex, which is the outer portion of the adrenal gland. The next root, med, meaning middle. The adrenal medulla is the middle portion of the adrenal gland. And there are numerous examples of this root in everyday language. Examples, Mediterranean Sea, a sea once thought to be in the middle of the earth, and median, the middle in a range of values. The next root, ad, meaning near or to, and let's look at that along with the next root, renal, referring to kidney. The adrenal gland is at or near the kidney. The next root, cal, meaning potassium. If you've studied chemistry, you will recognize that capital K as the chemical symbol for potassium. An example, hypokalemia, insufficient potassium in the blood. Don't ever mix those two up. The next root, nature, meaning sodium. An example, hypernatremia, a condition of excess salt or sodium in the blood. The next root, pine, literally coming from pine cone. An example is the pineal gland, which is cone-shaped, and the pineal gland is also called the pineal body. The next root, gon or gon, meaning sexual. An example, hypergonadism, which is excessive production of sexual hormones, androgen or estrogen. And another medical example with that root, gon or gon, of course, is gonads, which are the organs that secrete these hormones, ovaries in females and testes in males. The next root, edema, meaning swelling, and this root often stands on its own, edema, swelling. The next root, mix, meaning mucus. An example, myxedema, a condition in which mucopolysaccharides, sugar chains, leave deposits in the skin that cause swelling. The next root, acro, meaning extreme, and this use of extreme doesn't necessarily refer to excessive, it means far out. For instance, the hands and feet are far out from the body. Your hands and feet are called extremities. They're the farthest out from the core of your body. An example, acromegaly is enlargement, excessive enlargement of the extremities, the hands or feet, and parts of the face. The next root, mime, meaning copy. An example, sympathomimetic, which is an agent that acts like or mimes the sympathetic nerve system. And of course, there's any number of everyday words using that root mime, such as mime, a person, an artist who copies human actions, or mimic, to copy. The next root, pheo, meaning brown. An example, pheochromocytoma, which is a tumor of chromaffin cells, and I'm guessing this tumor is brown in color. The next root, ure, meaning urine. An example, antidiuretic, which is something that stops the flow or production of urine. The next root, di or dia, meaning across or throughout. And that's the di in antidiuretic, urinating throughout. It's the same root that you find in diagram, recording across, dialect and dialogue, speaking language across, and also in diarrhea, flowing throughout. So across or throughout. The next root, somat, meaning body. An example, somatotropin, which is a hormone that stimulates growth of the body. The next roots, vir and andra, meaning male. Examples, androgen, which is the male hormone. The next example, adrenal virilism, which is a condition of excessive androgen production by the adrenal glands. And in everyday life, you see these roots in words like virile, meaning masculine, or androgyny, meaning a sort of mix of the two sexes. Androgyny, an androgynous person, looks both male and female. The next root, estra, meaning female. An example, estrogen, a female sex hormone. The next roots, galact and lact, meaning milk. An example is galactorrhea, which is a discharge of a milky substance from the nipples, unrelated to normal birth. And note that root, rhea, the same root in diarrhea. The next root, dips, meaning thirst. Polydipsia means much thirst, basically dry mouth. So let's look at some medical terms that you are likely to encounter in a study of the endocrine system and see if we can deduce their meanings at first glance from our knowledge of these roots. And again, this section will also rely on your knowledge of some of the roots we learned in the basics. The first word, diuresis, this is something about urine throughout. In fact, it is an excessive formation or secretion of urine. The next word, hypervolemia, it's too much something in the blood. Actually, it's an increased or excessive volume of blood plasma. The next word, neurofibromatosis. We've got nerve, fiber, tumor, condition, and neurofibromatosis is a condition of fibrous tumors growing in the nervous system. The next word, insulinoma, some sort of tumor and insulin. As a matter of fact, it is a tumor causing excessive insulin production. The next word, transsphenoidal hypophysectomy. Okay, hypophysis-ectomy, it's some cutting out the hypophysis, the pituitary gland, or at least cutting out a part of it. Transsphenoidal, trans meaning across. This is cutting across the sphenoid sinus in order to remove tumors from the hypophysis or the pituitary gland. The next word, euthyroid. Eu meaning good, thyroid. This is basically a state in which the thyroid system is balanced. The next word, suprarenal glands. Now we know what the adrenal glands are. They're the ones that are at or near the kidney. Suprarenal is simply another term for the adrenal glands because those glands sit on top of the kidneys. The next word, gonadotropin. We have gon and then troph. This is a hormone that stimulates the growth of the gonads. The next word, progesterone, pro meaning supporting. You've seen a lot of uses of that in ordinary life. Progesterone, gest meaning gestation. And this is a hormone supporting gestation. Go ahead and read up more on your own on exactly how and when it's produced and how it works and what it does. The next word, prolactin, something about supporting milk. Prolactin is a hormone that stimulates the production of milk. The next root, exophthalmia. We haven't exactly studied this root ophthalm yet, but you can probably guess that it means eyes. Exophthalmia is a condition in which the eyeballs actually protrude from their sockets. You might call it bug-eyed in familiar kind of vulgar terminology. The next word, glycosuria. Glycosuria, we have something about sugar, urine condition. It is excessive sugar in the urine. The next word, polyuria. You know that poly means much. Polyuria is excess urination. The next word, panhypopituitarianism. You've seen that root pan in pandemic. It means total. This is total deficiency of the pituitary gland. All right, let's get going with a look at a case report from this article, from a journal, Hindawi, Case Reports in Endocrinology. Here we have hypokalemic periodic paralysis precipitated by thyrotoxicosis and renal tubular acidosis. Obviously, insufficient potassium in the blood, causing periodic paralysis as opposed to chronic, meaning persisting through time paralysis, precipitated by thyrotoxicosis and renal kidney tubular acidosis, some sort of condition of acid in the kidneys. And scrolling down here, the background. By the way, I would urge you, if you are studying with other people, to just to do this by reading this over quickly. This is how I used to do it in class. Just read over this paragraph or a couple of paragraphs quickly, and then try to recap it orally, out loud for each other. I don't normally, read sentences word by word out loud. It's not really a great way to learn how to read or how to get reading comprehension. But we'll do some of that here since I'm previewing this for you and I can only do it on YouTube. Hypokalemic periodic paralysis, a rare neuromuscular, obviously nerves and muscles disorder, characterized by transient pretty much a synonym for periodic, episodes of flaccid paralysis due to a defect in muscle ion channels. Okay, most cases hereditary. Okay, you already know what's going on here thanks to your knowledge of roots like hypokalemic or hypo and cal. Okay, a clinical case, a 38-year-old female with a history of Graves' disease, thyrotoxicosis, as we know, presented to the emergency department with generalized weakness and associated nausea, vomiting, and weight loss. Examination was significant for diffuse weakness in all extremities. It seems as though endocrine disorders do affect your extremities. Labs showed hypokalemia, hyperthyroidism, and this is why I don't like to read out loud, non-anion, non-anion gap metabolic acidosis with a positive urine anion gap. It also seems as though there's going to be a lot of urinary disorders with studies in endocrinology. She was treated for hypokalemic periodic paralysis and renal tubular acidosis, potassium replacement, propanolol, other drugs that I can't really pronounce, sodium bicarbonate were initiated. Her potassium gradually corrected with resolution of her symptoms. Further investigation revealed a history of dry eyes, dry mouth, and recurrent dental caries. So in other words, she had polydipsia. And by the way, this word caries, unfortunately, this journal misspelled this word. It's supposed to be C-A-R-I-E-S for this particular meaning. So it looks like autocorrect did them in. Go ahead and read more. She had a positive, her tests, diagnosed with a syndrome which may have been associated with her Graves' disease, thus contributed. Let's look at the conclusion. Early recognition and treatment of thyrotoxic periodic paralysis are important to prevent cardiac complications of the heart. In other words, management includes potassium replacement with careful monitoring to prevent rebound hyperkalemia. So apparently, this is a condition where you can actually get an excessive of potassium as a sort of a bounce back situation. The definitive treatment is to achieve euthyroid status, in other words, a balance. So go ahead on your own and read the rest of this article. You should be able to read it with a great deal more understanding, I hope, and confidence than you would before studying these roots. And go ahead and, like I said, if you have a little study group or something, read it together. And you don't have to, as far as I'm concerned, understand every single word, but just get a general understanding of the article and gain some confidence in deducing the meanings of words that you're looking at for the first time based on your knowledge of the roots. And a reminder, I am not an MD. If you have detected any scientific mistakes, please alert me in the comments. And if you have any questions, of course, put them down there too. Happy studying. I'll see you in the next lesson.